If the currents are from the south,
bringing life to each corner of it. Things are way more complicated.
And the western part is much better.
have a moon phase that are very strong,
I really miss the old days.
are the bait fish. Usually the up and down. They prefer to go. Having said that, are generally very strong, and all these kind of fish that
The currents moving from my right to my left. I will cast to my left, so I will be able to jig against the currents.
amazing. Look.
This will instantly show interest.
Little jig is a perfect
When you should go fishing and when you shouldn't go fishing. Okay guys, you asked me many times about the perfect fishing conditions, when you should go fishing and when you shouldn't go fishing. You also had some complaints that in my latest video I'm very serious. I will try to be as stupid as possible during this very important video. But also keep in mind what we are going to say today, because they are very critical for what we love most, our fishing. When should we go fishing? That's one of the biggest questions an angler can have. And what we do most? We check the prediction. There are so many fishing apps that you take a look and they say today is a good day for fishing. Is it? All these fishing apps have a baseline that is based on the daily moon phase. But is that enough? No. Why? Because you might have the best moon, but the wind might be wrong. But you might have a really good wind, and the currents are wrong. And now start to be really hard to understand when we should go fishing. In this video, we are going to discuss about that and give you some details so you can start putting the things in order, and eventually you will have a really good guideline about when you should go fishing and when you shouldn't. So there are things that can guarantee you a really good fishing, like the perfect conditions. And there are things that totally can f up your fishing no matter what. Hey John! Have a good fishing! Today we are going to discuss about the main factors that compose the ideal or worst conditions for fishing. These are the moon phase, the currents, the wind direction, and the barometric pressure. Okay, by the end of this video, you will definitely know when you should and when you shouldn't go. Let's start about the moon phase. So, the moon phase is very important, not just So, the moon phase is not important just about the moon and the light it produces, reflects from the sun during the night. The moon has a bigger importance than that. The moon is also a big role of the currents of the sea. But let's discuss first, as a small paragraph, about the light of the moon. If we discuss about night fishing and we have the moonlight, then yes, A full moon with a strong light during the night fishing, let's say for a bluefish, someone will experience that in the western part of the country it's really hard to get strikes from bluefish, while on the eastern part of the country is exactly the opposite and the fish are really active. The same goes also with the nights without moon, that the eastern part is not very alive and the western part is much better. But we will come back to the moon on the next chapter that is about currents. I wonder if a vampire can eat an apple. No! Maybe a cereal bar. I don't think so. So, if I'm gonna share one of my secrets with you, it's going to be my best moon phase fishing days. I would describe this as a fishing butterfly, my fishing butterfly. So, if we could make a butterfly like that, then guys, pay attention. This, the middle finger, yes, is the moon, the full moon, and also this, the down finger, is the total absent moon. So, we have the 5 days of the full moon, 2 days before the day of the full moon and 2 days after. So these 5 days for me are very good for fishing. And we have also, if this is the total absence of the moon, then one more time we have 2 days after the total absence of the moon, the day of the total absence of the moon, and the 2 days before the absence of the moon. So you have 10 days in the month that are very, very good for fishing if all the other conditions and factors come together and make the best day.
So from what we learned so far, the 10 most important days of fishing are 5 during the full moon and 5 during the total absence. Do you have any questions regarding this?
Me.
Go ahead.
Is it true that the moon is made of cheese? Let's move now to the next factor that are the currents, and believe me, it's a very complicated and a very big factor.
Currents. The bloodstream of the sea. The waters all around the world are constantly moving, bringing life to each corner of it. When the waters grow high, they fuel with oxygen and nutrients, and when they retreat, they have guaranteed that enough nutrients have been deposited until the next water flow, with one way or another. But what creates the currents? The water movement, or more preferably described as the currents, is a result of many factors like the Earth's rotation, sudden rise or drop of water temperature or salinity, causing shrinkage or expand of the water mass, as well as the wind on the sea surface. However, the most important factor is the magnetic field of the Moon and the Sun towards the Earth. Both create alternating currents known as the tide currents. The power of the currents depends from the position of the Sun and Moon to a specific Earth area and the morphological structure of it, including depth, water mass, and more. As a principle, the way of the water flow is clockwise same for the North Hemisphere and against clockwise for the South Hemisphere. However, in close seas like the Mediterranean, things are way more complicated than this.
Tides, currents, call it whatever you want, it's more or less the same thing. To be more clear, tides are the up and down. of the waters, but current is the movement. But eventually it's exactly the same thing, because currents are the movement of filling the sea or emptying the sea, and that explains the high tides or low tides. No matter if the tides get high or low, there are always currents. And currents have a moon phase that are very strong and a moon phase that are lower, and eventually in the day they have a strong peak and a fall. So when are we fishing? High tides, low tides, what fish? This is what we are going to see today. But you won't get, believe me. If you get, you should play lottery today. With these tides is
super easy to have.
yes, and permanent ones.
Yeah.
This is why I told you there are too many jigs already down here, broken.
Maybe.
Leader,
Guys, my videos, and especially this video, takes a lot of time and effort in order to be prepared. The least you can do is subscribe to my channel. And believe me, I will make it worth every single minute. Subscribe now.
Whoa! Not something extraordinary. So continue please your thoughts. Okay. And change place. Come on, albacore. Come on, albacore. Yes, they are. Where are you? Okay. And now the crank starts to go on the back, not on the leader. Yes. Oh. Wow. Whoa. Very annoying rocks.
Yes.
An observation I have done, and maybe you can confirm as well, is that all these years that I'm fishing, I have understand that the last years the currents are stronger and stronger.
Me.
And there are times that the tides get so low that you can walk by foot in places that normally you would never reach unless you swim. So I believe that with this global warming and the whole climate change have affected the currents, and they are much stronger than before. Having said that, it feels that the fish also have understand that, and that makes a big confusion, and things that were established and a law in the past, now they are not. Yes, things are totally fucked up. How we spot currents?
The dark area on the rocks shows where the high tide limit is, and sometimes the water level can drop below 1 meter.
Of course, if you cast, you will feel it. but sometimes you can see it with your eyes. On the surface, you can see these lines of total calm water, like an oil line, that it's very easy to spot, and that's exactly where the movement of the water is. So when you see this line away from the rocks, that means that the strong movement of the water is far there, and when you see it close, it's close to you. Another way to spot are the bait fish. Usually from the direction that they look near the rocks is where the currents are coming. And if you search around and find the bait fish where they are hidden or protected from the currents, usually is there exactly where the big fish are. If the bait fish are totally absent, that means that probably the currents are very strong, because also the bait fish prefer to avoid strong currents. So if it looks dead underneath, no bait fish on a season that there should be, then what you have to do is start walking and put as a secondary option the best place to stay and put your legs, and your priority is to find where the bait fish are, because when you find the bait fish, it's more possible to find also the bigger fish that are actually after them. So here we can see that the currents are coming and hit this area. Okay, we see that here is deep and comes shallow, and we can see here where the bait fish are. One more time, they have found the place that the currents are neutralized, and they stay on the place that will consume the less possible energy. Also, small particles of food will come towards them with less speed, and they will feed without actually try much. So in this area, it's more possible to get a fish close to here, casting there in the currents with slower jigging tempo. Of course, if you are in a cave, you can simply look at the surface of the rocks and you will see if there is circulating water along the rocks, and that's the movement of the water. Here is an example. Can you see the tides on the surface? They are coming like that and hitting the place that we are now, and the bait fish are down here. And you see, yes, they are all gathered. You see the bait fish? They are all gathered here simply because the tides, the currents, make here a suppression, and the water here is not moving fast, and the fish are staying here, the bait fish, in order to save energy. So guess where the bigger fish are going to come first when they visit this spot. And now we'll show you another example. It's been 5 hours and the tides, currents, changed the direction. So now, if you can see, the currents are coming from that side, and they struck the place that before we could see the bait fish. But now, as you can clearly see, there are no bait fish here. Nope. Simply because the currents are hitting here, and as we said, the bait fish, all fish, don't want to spend energy for no reason. So they have moved on another area of this rock that is more protected from the currents. And this is the place that we should go and fish, and not here. I don't know if you can see on the surface the black bait fish. Here also, exactly what I'm showing with my rod. It's also the glaring of the sea, but the bait fish are from this side and up in the surface. Here the currents are getting broken, and it's much easier for the fish to stay without spending energy. Keep that in mind. Now this is the place I should try to fish. I got also, but I don't know what it is. What? If you see what I got, you will cry. Yes. It's dinner, bro. It's not a bara. What is it? I want to hear you saying. Dinner. You see, that's the way it's done. Let's talk about currents and species. There are some fish that love currents, and these fish are generally very strong fish that take full advantage of the currents that affect much stronger the smaller fish, the bait fish. So there are some fish that we can find them very active in strong currents, and there are other types of fish that totally hate them and you won't find them. Fish that in generally love strong currents, and you can find them and get them in the strong currents, are the amberjacks, the bonitos, the false albacores, the tunas, and in general all the strong pelagic fish.
Here we can see a very rare footage that shows clearly sardines trapped between the currents, and false albacores taking full advantage of it.
The fish that generally hate 100% the tides, the currents, the strong currents, are snappers, groupers, barracudas, and all these kind of fish that are way more lazy. And they cannot hunt in the strong currents. They don't like to stay and wait in the strong currents. They prefer to go on less stronger conditions. So yes, they will prefer to go near the bottom, behind rocks or fast drops to take refuge from the stronger currents, simply in order not to spend energy. Because for the fish, there is the basic law that we all should keep in mind. They don't spend energy unless they really have to. Bonitos, albacores, tunas, amberjacks, they have lots of energy and they will use it in the current simply because they know that they will take it back. But a snapper is not a guarantee, so it will wait for calmer conditions. Having said that, it's very easy to understand that you can find in the middle of a cape where the currents at 1 hour of the day are very strong. It's not pointless to fish because albacores and tuna species and amberjacks will strike. But of course you have to wait until they pass. That's the trick. But it's complete. Oh! It's a. Bro, it was an albacore.
Albacore.
Albacore, bro. It was an albacore. Okay. And now I got. Joe, it's a patch.
Yeah.
It was an albacore.
I saw a long shape. I thought.
No, I saw it extremely clearly. Oh, all inside. Look at that. All inside. All inside. Deep throat. Ah. Barracudas, groupers and snappers will simply won't start hunting even if they are there unless the currents drop. One more thing very important is the direction of the tides and where to cast. Something that you should know is that normally the fish hunt against the tides. Yes, that means that even with low current movement that you can always feel, the fish will 90% attack when you jig against the tides and not with the tides. Snappers, for example, if they are in the mood to strike in low currents, they will prefer to strike against. Watch this example and you will understand what I'm saying.
Sorry, wrong clip. What's this?
This is my first cast. I just got to this place and I try to understand how the currents are moving. if you can see the currents moving from my right to my left. It seems that my first cast is totally wrong.
Did you know that strong currents can totally destroy the action of your jig, your lure, or whatever you use? It's really true. For example, if the currents come towards you and you jig with them, if they're very strong, they totally cancel the action of the jigs. The same goes with lures, like for example gravity runner or lipped lures. If you reel them with the same direction of the currents, they will not act, they will come like piece of wood. So you have to cast against. If the currents are super strong, then against doesn't work for one more time, because they are super strong that they will cancel one more time the action of the jig. You can feel that the resistance is very strong. And also if you cast a lure, if the currents are very strong, you will simply have to reel much slower for appropriate action, because if you retrieve as normally fast you do, then the lure won't swim. It will circulate or pop up in the surface or whatever.
As I jig, I can understand that my jig's action is totally cancelled by the currents. I have to cast and jig against. I will cast to my left, so I will be able to jig against the currents. I will use a slower tempo. This is an amazing fish.
Yes. It's a nice dentex. Oh, that my age is. Oh, look at this monster! A very nice fish. And I just thumped it. SGS6 pumped it like like nothing. Amazing! Look!
The best way to start the day, don't you agree?
Whoa! You see? How do I choose the best hour of fishing? That depends of the fish that you hunt. For example, me, I know very well the peak and the drop of the currents in my area. So when I wanna go for snappers or saddle brims for light game or spinning for barracudas, I will go with low currents.
Time out, time out. It's important to understand when I say high currents or low currents, I'm talking about water flow, the speed of the movement of the water, not high level of the sea or low level of the sea. Actually, fish are more active during high level of the sea. Keep that in mind. So high currents and low currents are referring to water speed. Let's continue.
The problem is that from a day to another, the peak and the lower currents are not on the same hours. They have a difference of from 15 minutes or some hours, and you have to know for your area, you have to sit and observe and fish very constantly and take notes, and eventually you will know how, depending the moon, the currents move in your area. Now, if I wanna go for snappers, I will never go near the peak of the currents because it will be totally pointless. You might get a snapper in a very deep place, very near the wall, but it's a joker strike. So if you wanna go and focus on snappers, you have to go without currents, and especially near the low. So that means a couple of hours as it drops, the hours that stays dropped, and the hours that starts to grow. And that can be eventually in any time of the day. Unfortunately, sometimes it's during night, so that makes day fishing not possible, so bye-bye snappers. Same goes with groupers. The groupers, I go always with low currents. Why? Because when the currents are strong, the groupers are in their holes, very low to the bottom, and they simply don't care. But when the currents are lower, then the groupers are out of the holes, sometimes a bit higher from the bottom, and if they see something even in 10 meters or more higher than the bottom, they can make vertical strikes and get it. So now you have a really strong idea how and when. Is that all? No, there is another thing. The direction of the currents always affect the fish, if they strike or not. So in some areas, if the currents are from the south or the west, could be good, but if they are from the east or the north, might be bad. So you have to find also that, because it's not the same. Totally different conditions are in one sea, not one country, one sea. For example, now here I am in Corinthian, and totally different direction of currents are good here, and totally different direction currents are good for Saronic Gulf, for example. So this is something that you have to observe.
However, it is good to know that currents from the north usually bring colder waters, while currents from the south bring hotter waters. So, as a general rule, in summer we prefer north currents, and during the winter we prefer south currents. Yay!
For short jigging in strong currents, we prefer slim and long jigs.
love slim and long jigs.
Needle jig is a perfect example of what you can use in strong currents. So it will have an appropriate action, and also you will not destroy your arm because it's really hard. But guys, one more thing, keep in mind that even jigging in strong currents against the strong currents needs a slower tempo, not very fast. Okay? Give the chance to the fish to feel confident. It's not that they are not able to attack, but if you make them feel confident that they can, then they will.
Now let's talk about something equally important that affects hugely our fishing, the wind. The wind has two parts that are equally important. It's the wind direction and the power of the wind. Let's talk first about the wind direction. This is another very critical part of our fishing. As I have said in the past also, the direction of the wind affects hugely a fishing spot and a fishing area, or a sea or a gulf. Let's see an actual example. Regarding west wind, in Ionian and the western part of Greece is a very effective wind for fishing, and fish are very active. The same goes in Corinthian. They love the west wind. But in Saronic Gulf, for example, that is very close to the Corinthian Gulf, fish hate. And the anglers call it the fish scarer, because it actually scares the fish. Even a stronger west wind that makes waves and ideal conditions for fishing, fish don't care. They simply don't care. On the other hand, a north or a northwest in Saronic is a really good wind for go fishing. So, what you have to do for one more time is observe the direction of the wind to your fishing spot and see. Sometimes during the day you have, let's say, a south and suddenly it changes to north, and that it has a moment of total calmness, so you know that something is changing, and then the different direction of the wind starts. And usually at that moment the activity of the fish explodes or totally decreases. You should give attention to that. You will see how many times this will be repeated. I prefer to fish to areas that the major wind is hitting. All regions have a major wind. The major wind is the direction of the wind that hits the area most of the time of the year. All areas have such wind. You should find out. So for me, for example, in Kyklades, I prefer to fish on the northern parts of the islands, because simply north is the dominant air that hits the northern parts. And these parts are less frequently fished by professional anglers, and also they are way more alive. Probably because of the oxygen quantities, or probably because of the bigger amount of life forms. However, it is what it is. You should consider that.
Whoa! Whoa! Oh!
Look at this guy! Look at this guy! Let's release it fast. Bye-bye!
Let's talk about the wind power now. Anglers don't go fishing because they wait for good conditions, and for their mind, good conditions is a calm sea. No, calm sea is terrible.
So, with these conditions, it's still September. So, for me, it's a no. Why? I'm here today for fishing. I have Giuseppe with me. That's somewhere here around. And he wanted to go fishing. Me, I would never go fishing in late spring, summer and September with so calm conditions. So that means that we came in a cape that it's really hard to come by walk, and it's a very good passage. In conditions like that, today we get nothing, not even a strike. We are here for 5 hours, probably we will finish our day here, but yes, I don't expect anything. So calm conditions for me are only for the winter, not for the summer, not for the spring, not for the autumn.
Personally, I prefer strong wind conditions because it makes fish more active. Simple as that. It makes the water more cloudy, more oxygenized, so all conditions are perfect for the fish. And fish love that. They take advantage of the low visibility, of the high oxygen, of everything to hunt. The power of the wind, for me, the ideal power of the wind is from 3x4 to 5x4. In these conditions, you can always use most type of lures and have good results. But if you have big balls, yes, then you should go also with 6x4 or higher. So in calm conditions, we don't go fishing? Absolutely we do. And especially during winter months, we do go fishing. Especially if the barometric pressure helps. Also, we should consider about the swell. So for example, if today in an area is a 7x4 wind and we cannot go fishing, and tomorrow we can see in the predictions that it's 3x4, then you can go tomorrow and find really good swell that is the result of today's strong conditions, but the wind will be really calm, so you can cast and have excellent animation of your lures. So the fish will react like it was actually a 7x4, simply because of the swell, because the swell does oxygenize and makes turbulence in the water, make them cloudy and foamy and all the perfect conditions we want. The power of the wind also affects a bit the currents. Not the whole level of the sea, but for sure the higher level water movement. So yes, strong wind does create surface currents that make fish that live near the surface very, very active.
Maybe a small snapper, bro. Yes. Maybe it seems like a or a bara, but no reaction. it's a small snapper. You see? They like it. Hold a bit. Yes. I will take care of that. Totally took it. Wee! Oh, disappeared. Bye bye. See you in a couple of years.
There is another small parameter, at least here in Greece, and probably might happen also in other parts of the Mediterranean. During August and during summer months in general, we have a local wind phenomenon called the meltemi.
The Greek Aegean meltemi. Whoa! Today is an 8.
The meltemi is a seasonal wind phenomenon that occurs during the Aegean and is a strong north wind that comes all the way to Aegean, striking the Cyclades Islands. So, A, if you want to go during summer in Greece and enjoy a summer that is not very hot, choose the Cyclades.
Is she actually going to drink orange juice and coffee milk? She is going to need soon kilometers of toilet paper. Haha!
B, if you wanna go fishing during summer in Cyclades, go with meltemi, because the fish are very addicted to these strong wind conditions, and especially during summer.
Impossible to fish.
If you go try to get some fish with calm conditions, you will not. The good thing with meltemi is that it is so strong that you really don't need to fish against it. You can find a corner and use it on your back or on your sides, and you will get fish. They love it. Meltemi and strong wind in general totally camouflage your appearance. It totally hides the splashing of the lure, the shape of the line on the surface, everything. So guys, you need strong conditions for better results, no matter what is your fishing style. So here we are talking about the barometric pressure. For me, barometric pressure is the key to the kingdom.
Barometric pressure is the weight of the atmosphere that surrounds us.
It's one of the most important things someone should look at before he goes fishing. I'm not saying that you should always look at the barometric pressure, because in summer, for example, the barometric pressure is always high, very hard to find low. With clear sky, the barometric pressure usually is high. And when clouds start to appear and the barometric pressure drops, it's a sign of rain or a storm. The more the barometric pressure drops, the worst conditions are going to occur.
So yes, during the drop of the barometric pressure, things start to become very interesting. The same goes for the rise. After the storm, from 10,008, for example, that starts growing, it's also another moment to fish. This is why the old people were saying that after the storm is very good for fishing. It's nothing else than the change of the barometric pressure that affects the fish directly. Yes. This is completely destroyed.
When the barometric pressure is high, the pressure pushes more against our body and limits how much tissue can expand. On the other hand, when the atmosphere's air pressure is low, it allows our body tissues to expand more, putting more pressure on nerves and other parts of our body. This allows the tissues to expand. Expanded tissues can put pressure on joints and cause pain. Specifically, the range from 1003 to 1007 HPa below standard atmospheric pressure cause headaches to many people. Luckily, the low barometric pressure, even if it seems to be a disaster for humans, it certainly motivates fish to hunt and get active. While low barometric pressure is a standard for a good fishing, also fast changes of the barometric pressure from low to high or high to low affect fish and their mood to eat.
So, another thing we should know is that if the barometric pressure drops too much, you shouldn't go fishing. But what we call low barometric pressure? Personally, I love the barometric pressure below 1010 HPa. Below that, usually things are good for fishing, and the more it drops, the better. Just be careful because with very low barometric pressure, the possibility of a thunder right on your rod are going to occur.
Oh, with this sun, it's 1026. Hopefully it will start dropping.
I am ready.
Wait, this idiot doesn't know he is on air. Anyway, go.
Now Marcos is going to show us how curious and active fish are on low barometric pressure. He will put a camera in the water and fish will instantly show interest for it. This normally doesn't happen so fast with high barometric pressure.
Guys, learn the conditions that work in your area.
I know that you guys expecting to have the golden recipe about exactly when you should go fishing, but as you can see, unfortunately, from one range to another, conditions affect totally different our fishing.
Yes, I know the conditions of my places very well, and I know the days that I should go fishing, and definitely I know the days that I shouldn't go fishing.
And to be honest, I really miss the old days, going on every possible opportunity I had.
Because guys, it takes away a big piece of the magic that fishing has. If you know when to go fishing, then you try to focus only on the days that you should go fishing. And then you don't go fishing on the other days. And sometimes you might not be able, due to other reasons or job, to go on the perfect days of fishing. And then you have free the days that you shouldn't go fishing. And eventually, you might end up not going fishing for a long time.
Eventually, the ideal day for fishing, the absolute day for fishing, the most perfect day for fishing would be a day with the perfect moon for a specific area, the perfect wind for a specific area, the perfect currents for a specific area, and a low barometric pressure. This day, if it happens for you to be in the sea, you will kill. On the other hand, the worst day you could go fishing would be a day with the worst moon phase for a specific area, worst currents for a specific area, worst wind for a specific area, and a high barometric pressure. I'm very sad that I have done only half work and the rest is something that you have to do. But there is no other way. Don't listen to anyone that says about good days, bad days in general. You should take paper and a pen And after every time that you go fishing, if it is a very bad fishing or a very good fishing, you should always take notes about the conditions. After 1 year of constant notes, you will have a very strong guideline and you can put the puzzles together, and then you will know about your fishing place what are the best conditions and days. As I usually say, guys, as long as your lure is in the water, no matter the conditions are, you do have chances to have a strike and sometimes a trophy. So my best advice for you is fish hard, never give up. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video with friends. It's a huge help for me. Stay strong, tight lines, and always be safe. So, Lemon. Sometimes it's... Come on! That fish prefer full moon. Some fish, like barracudas, snappers and groupers, δεν με βοηθάς όμως. Με κοιτάς έτσι. I hate you! It is important that you know that depending the direction of the currents... Come on! Come on, I'm super idiot. Come on, you are my biggest mistake. The tides are very important. What are you doing here? Κάνει γεια. Φύγε τώρα. Πώς?